right, today we're kicking off something new, introducing our hot seat sessions. These are raw, unfiltered conversations where we're going to be jamming on the real challenges that we see every day inside Surface businesses. From marketing to sales, installing better systems, and scaling beyond the owner, these questions that we're going to tackle and maybe get stumped on these hot seat sessions are directly from the work that we do inside of our programs with our clients and from the conversations that we have with Surface Pros every day. So whether you're driving between job sites, working at your desk at the showroom, or planning your next move, get ready to take notes because there's going to be a lot of value that we're going to unpack and share in these sessions. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. We've got a list of questions that we've compiled. We haven't really reviewed them much in advance, and we're just going to tackle them one at a time. So let's get to it. All right, Wes, let's hit the first one.
Perfect. So the first thing that we've heard plenty of is in my area, things are really slow right now. What do I do or what can I do to generate more sales quickly?
Yeah, that's something that we hear all the time when people come to us and they're looking to improve sales because cash flow is now really tight.
Mhm.
We see it in Facebook groups, right? Where somebody will post, "Hey, we're dying over here in such and such city, state, et cetera." And then people will chime in, and it does seem like across the board that things were really booming for a while for people, and now they've kind of dropped off a cliff. And yeah, there are the exceptions to the rule. We were just, talking about that recently. That when we see those types of posts, there's a couple of people that'll chime in. Not over here. We're crushing it, busier than ever, right? And so yeah, there are definitely are some hotspots, markets that are thriving, but for a lot of people, these are tough times, right?
Yeah.
So I think that when we hear that a lot of times, people are relying on word of mouth and referrals, right? And they're used to getting a certain amount of business from retail that just calls them up, finds them on the website, did a Google search, walks in the door to a showroom, for example, or a dealer. Um, or they've got some like builders, contractors they work with that feed them jobs regularly. But now things have dried up in the market. And so they're really feeling it because they don't necessarily have a what we call a marketing machine, but basically they don't have control over their ability to produce more customers.
Yeah.
And there are many different ways of doing that. You could just go door to door and just, try and hustle up business. You could do direct mail. You could do so many different things. For us, what we typically recommend is you want to pick a channel that's going to be cost effective. That's you want to pick a channel that's accessible, that's not going to
Mhm.
be too expensive or too hard to learn how to acquire more customers predictably. So generally, we're recommending that our clients, when they join our program, can leverage meta ads, so that's Instagram and Facebook, and run very, very straightforward campaigns, but really doing a lot of testing and paying attention to what is your true cost per lead, your cost per acquisition. And that's the game you've got to master. So regardless of what channel you pick, we recommend Meta when somebody's getting started.
Yep.
You've got to master the money math. How much does it cost to get a click? How much does it cost to get a lead? How much does it cost to acquire a customer? And then you want to really start to optimize your campaign so that you have that control and predictability.
Perfect. Would you say that's really the first thing that we look at and focus on when customers are bouncing between good months and bad?
Like, so if they're just on that feast or famine cycle is kind
Yeah.
of what we call it. So they're busy, really hot one month, like they're struggling to
Yeah.
keep up, and the next month it's like tumbleweeds in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you ultimately, in ideally, we'd really want a client to tackle this in good times.
Mhm.
Like there's no better time to take control of your pipeline, your cash flow, your sales, and your marketing than in good times.
Right.
So for those companies that we talked about that chime in on those Facebook posts and they're like busier than ever, best time to take control of your marketing and your sales
Mhm.
because you've got money to invest, your back's not up against the wall, and you have the luxury of it not being make or break.
Yeah.
For those other companies that are in feast or famine, when you're in those cycles, it's hard because you're in the place now where things have slowed down. So cash flow's dried up, and now you're like, okay, we're listening to you guys, and you guys are saying invest in marketing. How am I going to do that when there's not a lot of jobs on the schedule?
Right.
Or if you're not, you don't do fabrication, you don't do installation, maybe you're a supplier, that just walk-in traffic's really slowed down for you. And so sales again have dropped off a cliff. And you're listening to us and you're saying to yourself, that sounds great, but I don't have it. So, yes, if you do have some money to invest, or you're willing to bet on yourself to say, okay, I'm going to take some money, I'm going to invest in this, and I know it's going to take a little bit of time to, learn and become ROI positive,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would recommend. You've got to invest in your business just like you do when you buy a new, van, or you're going to invest in a showroom display, or marketing often gets put on the back burner, like it's going to be last, and it should be absolutely first in terms of what you invest in. So, but if there are those people that are just like, we don't have it, we can't do it, then, and that's not necessarily when somebody's joining our programs, that would be kind of a disqualifier because our programs are set up that you are investing and you are doing those things. But the advice I would give is, number one, look in your pipeline right now. You've got a ton of different quotes that you could go after and reactivate and follow up on. You've got some builder contractor connections that you could, go call, go reintroduce yourself if you haven't worked together in a while, and you've really got to pound the pavement. And we had a program member that fell into that situation early
Mm-hmm.
on, wasn't then able to invest in marketing the way they had planned. And we had them hustle. Like, we basically said, hey, your back's up against the wall. You've got to be relentless in your pipeline. You've got to go after everything, every relationship you've ever had, and go, you know, basically put some money on the board.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have that, you're going to reinvest and build a real marketing machine. And I remember that conversation because he didn't like it, because a lot of it was, hey, man, you got to pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are going to be on the phone. You're going to be making those calls. You're going to be driving around and introducing yourself. And I know it's not really what you want to do, but these, you can't afford not to.
Right.
And he thanked us later for it. He did it. We did some coaching with him too, to like get him comfortable with that. And then he did it. And then you have the money to reinvest.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah. And
doesn't take a lot. It doesn't
no, it
take a lot
doesn't.
to invest. Yeah.
No, and I can draw from personal experience too. A couple years ago, when I was running a surface business, um, we had a slow patch, and we had a list of 300 appointments we had already been to
Mm.
with quotes already built. And so we pulled up that list, and it was the salesman and I hammering 30 calls a day each, and we generated between 90 and 110,000 in sales, I believe, on quotes that we already sent. And it was people that said, "Hey, we're not ready to spend money yet," or whatever it was. Something came up, but now I'm in a position. Thank you for reaching back out. And
Totally.
some of them required revisits. Things had changed, but we had already spent the money on gathering that lead when things were good, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, it's a free lead. We've already gone and seen it. It's money generated. So, and that's something that I know we've recommended to, like you said, a couple people, and it works. Takes a little bit of effort, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. We call that like pipeline reactivation.
yep.
Now, not every company is that organized to have like a nice CRM with a pipeline. Um, but you've got those leads hopefully stored somewhere. And some people are still, hey, we've just sent out all these quotes. It's just living in my email inbox.
Right.
Doesn't matter. That if that is your default pipeline, which is not ideal, that's where you want to go after, right? Like pull them all, go back. So yeah, we call it pipeline reactivation.
Yep.
The ideal is that you never get to that point where you've let a lot of those die on the vine,
Yeah.
right? Is that you're keeping your pipeline healthy all the time. But in these periods of time where things have really slowed down, that is the first place to start,
Yeah.
is to reactivate your pipeline. And then, yes, I'm glad you asked that question, because that would be the first place to start, regardless of if you have money to invest in marketing. Because
Yeah.
so often gold, you can mine for gold in the pipeline. You guys did 90 to 100, and that
Mm-hmm.
was in a month, I guess, I assume.
Yeah, I think it was 45 days, 30 to 45 days where we made it through.
100K. Yeah. I mean, that's right. And then, so the ideal would be is a lot of people would just turn around and go, okay, that got us through. Whew.
Yeah.
Is you really do want to look at, are we going to, when we do this, what are we going to reallocate towards investing into a marketing machine
Yep.
to give us that predictability? Because what happens after you just reactivated all of that? Well, what's going to happen in the next 90 days? Where are those other leads going to come from that
Yeah.
in these times? So, yeah, I mean, the big takeaway from people is just you've got to put marketing first.
Hmm.
You've got to look at a percentage of your profits are always going to feed the marketing machine. And the way people should look at it is you don't want to just rely on referrals of word of mouth. You want to be able to literally have control to buy a percentage of the market every month,
Hmm.
reinvest back into the marketing machine to buy more and more and more, and become the dominant player that can outspend the competitors on how much it costs to buy a customer ultimately.
Yeah. And it's tough because it's not a shiny new van. It's not a shiny new tool. Like those are way more fun things to spend money on when you have money and things are going good. But ultimately, if you want that predictability, you've got to invest up front. And like you said, keep investing to keep buying a portion of the market every month. And then new vans are less stressful because things don't slow down as bad, right?
Yeah,
So, and that's a
totally.
really good segue because when things get slow, guys tend to go, "Ugh, I got to drop my price to be competitive. I need the work, so I'm going to lower my value so that I have something in the pipeline." And a lot of guys don't want to compete on price. They know that they're offering a premium service, they're doing a good job, they're paying attention and taking care of customers well. So they don't want to compete on price. But how do those guys stand out?
Yeah. I should also say, because like our audience here that's going to be listening can be, stone tile flooring. So you may have, like, if we're talking about that, that also applies to those that own like a tile showroom.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you're also in a really competitive market where somebody has the same materials as you and it's just going to be 10% less.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be in that race to the bottom as a, stone tile gallery showroom. You don't want to be competing on price on hardwood flooring. You don't want to be competing on price for countertops, for example. That's our core, audience and who we serve. And they're all feeling it right now. Right. We hear that a lot. Like, my market is really competitive and it's only getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we stand out? So that's, something we're really passionate about, really good at helping our clients with. It's one of the core things that we do in all of our programs is to help our clients unlock their competitive advantage. And I think a lot of people look at how they stand out. They say, hey, we do really great work. We show up when we say we're going to show up. Our reputation's everything, or speed, or quality.
They're,
And I think a good thing for people to recognize
mm-hmm.
is that is the bare minimum. That's if it's a homeowner, builder, designer, that's what they expect,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like you can compete on a few things with your price, and if we're talking about installs,
Mm-hmm.
from template or to do an in-home estimate to actual install, and you were to say we could do that in 2 days and you can actually follow through. I know I'm talking like that's not possible, but I'm going to extremes. If you
Yeah.
could optimize a business on that and you're like the Amazon where it just shows up tomorrow, yeah, you'd have a competitive advantage. But in reality, we're talking 7 days to 10 days for most people. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just what a homeowner is going to expect, right? So saying I've got 5 days, is that your competitive advantage? Is a homeowner going, yeah, 205 Google reviews, 5 stars, 90 Google reviews, 5 stars, 2 days less? I want that. I mean, no, they're not. It's not going to move it so much. So all of these things that you see on people's websites that they have, they believe their competitive advantage is, go look at your top 3 to 5 competitors, and you guys are probably all saying the same stuff. Would you agree with that, Wes?
I would
I
agree.
would agree. Yeah, it's like when you were running and
Mm-hmm.
you were the GM in a service business. Did you take the time? You kind of knew what was on your competitor's website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I was looking around and comparing and going, okay, well, what do these guys do different than us, if anything?
if
Most
anything,
of the time it was just different website colors and a different name, right?
Exactly.
We're
Right.
all seeing the same stuff.
Same stuff, right? You got like certain warranties,
Yeah.
veteran owned, woman owned, you know, and that people, that's great, but
Hmm.
that's not your competitive advantage. That might resonate with another vet or somebody that appreciates the service
Yeah.
of,
To some
but that's
people.
not a competitive advantage. Some people will put, hey, 20 years in business, or you'll even see on a website, and I'm just ranting right now, because I'm passionate about this topic. You'll
Yeah.
see on a website, like collectively, we have 100 years of
Yeah.
experience in hardwood flooring. You're like, okay, 5 guys times 20, cool. Nobody cares. It's like,
Right.
yeah, I mean, they don't. They really, really don't. The homeowner is going to sit there and they want confidence.
Hmm.
They want to know that when they choose you, that this is going to come out exactly as they envision with as few headaches as possible, and that you're going to follow through on your promises. But the
Hmm.
problem is there then people are just going to say we're going to do all those things, and everybody says that, and people are skeptical, right? So we haven't answered the question yet, but the answer is you've got to look at your ideal customer.
Hmm.
What are their pains, problems, the things that they want to avoid? What's their desired outcome? And what do you solve better than anybody else? And so, without going way down the rabbit hole, we do, I think, have an older episode where we talk about the competitive advantage and our formula. And we're going to do more episodes in the future on that. But you've got to deeply understand your customer,
Yep.
and you've got to create real solutions. So when our clients join our program, we have a competitive advantage formula. We take them through. They package and position their unique solutions and the benefits to the customer, and then they actually name it. And that's how they stand apart in the market, because they have what's called in the marketing game a unique mechanism, something
Hmm.
that nobody else does, and it sets them apart. Um, and we could geek out on that for a while, but I think that's if anybody's curious about that, you reach out to us at team@drivenforgrowth.co, or if you're on a platform that you've seen that, just drop a comment.
Yeah. And I think that begs another question about areas that are price sensitive.
Mm.
But when you craft a really great competitive advantage, right, outside of the 30 years experience plus, 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 it really helps people understand and potentially want to spend a little more money with you and go, okay, yeah, these guys actually, they're not saying the same things that those 4 or 5 other companies are saying. There's something different that builds value in the customer's mind and credibility. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody we work with and anybody listening to this, we recommend you don't want, there's only one company in every market that can win when competing in the arena of price. Everybody else will lose. That one player can actually have a sound business model because they own that. Everybody else should look at people that are price shopping, bargain hunters, and run. You
mhm,
want to go after the premium market that respects your price and values the exchange of what they're going to get. Those people that are haggling over things that are red flags, then when they walk in the door and call you, you should actually not take those jobs, because those are the ones that are going to be the headache, the time suck, right? That you maybe even will lose some margin on because they're going to make your life miserable, right? And they need so
yeah,
much hand holding, or they're going to, you know, bring up something later that they want a refund on, like all of those problems, right? When you're going after your ideal customer and you've
mhm,
created a competitive advantage uniquely for them, they respect the price. They don't want that extra 10% off. They'll pay an extra 10 to 20% to know they're going to get exactly what they want with none of the things they don't want, right? Which is, yeah.
yeah,
So I think that's something we always recommend. You want to be one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive option
mhm,
in the market, but not just because you put that on the quote. You got to walk the walk and back it up. Why are you the most expensive? And that's a really great answer, a question to answer, right?
yeah, exactly. That's great. So we help our customers craft a competitive advantage. We help them install marketing systems to make sure that their pipeline stays full. But what about when those things are installed and they just have a an ill performing salesperson? How do we get salespeople
I love
to
how like diplomatic you are.
I don't mean to be.
Ill performing sales. I love it.
Ill performing.
So we've got an
My sales guy
underperforming sales
stinks.
rep.
How about that?
Yeah, I think the wording we always hear is like, I've got, what is it? Like my sales reps are just order takers, right? Like they're not
Yeah,
real salespeople. They just are order takers, which
yeah,
what does that mean? Like I've got an order taker on a team of order takers. That's like somebody that just, when the phone rings, yeah, they'll kick out the quote, but they don't follow
right.
up.
Yeah,
You know, they're not really, they'll go just, somebody walks through the showroom. Okay, that's an easy one. I'll get that quote out. But then
yep,
beyond that, they're not really doing a lot to even cover their own salary
yeah,
in a way, right?
yeah.
And they're getting paid commission on top of that on all of this. So how? Well, sorry, I kind of went off track there. What's the question?
Well, that's all. That's all good. It's how do we get those salespeople to really sell versus just
Mm,
being an order taker? And maybe a good follow up question is: have we seen a poor performing salesperson turn into a strong performing one? And what really made the difference and helped them make that jump?
nice. Yeah. So a little bit of history there. So we ran a program called the Sales Sidekick Program for Surface Pros for 3 years, helping our clients to ensure their pipelines were healthy, salespeople were performing at a high level, and really, you know, maximizing every opportunity that they get. So was the goal. Now, you know, we definitely worked with sales reps that, you know, no matter how hard we tried,
Yeah,
we weren't putting in the reps, doing the work. And we had people that, to your point, were underperforming and became top performers for sure. So what I would say, it's kind of like that's a layered question. And I think if people that are listening to this and the people that we've talked to over the years, that really this is a pain point for them, like something that just really frustrates them,
mhm,
is they could say, hey, like salespeople are born, right? You either are made to do sales or you're not. I mean, I think we can even speak in your case, like you haven't done the type of sales you're now doing at Driven for Growth,
right.
no experience. Were you born to do sales? I don't know. Maybe you could answer that better, but you're walking the walk, you're putting in the reps, and it's producing results. So I think you can overcome, like somebody that's saying that. I think that I would disagree.
Yeah,
Yes, I do think good salespeople are born, but can we just do we have the luxury of hiring those unicorns? No.
right.
So your competitor might have that one unicorn, right? And so I think that average performers can become top performers, poor
Mhm,
performers can become above average performers or even solid performers if you've got the right systems in place for them, the right accountability mechanisms in place. You're going to help coach and develop them, and you have those things in place. But I'd say it really comes down to systems. So when people are frustrated that their team is made up of just order takers, have you really set the right expectations? Do you have the right systems in place? Have you given
mhm,
them the right tools to succeed? Do they know what's required of them to perform at a certain level? Like, for example, have you ever told them, hey, when we send out a quote, I want you to call and email every 4 days? I'm just making that up, but do
mhm,
they know that's expected? Right. And
right.
so often they don't. Like, you guys are not on the same page with what they're supposed to be doing every day. We just want them to knock it out of the park, but they're not set up for success. So, um, big rabbit hole we could go down, but
Yeah,
systems is the big key there.
for
For
sure.
sure.
In finding people who are willing to fail and make mistakes, like
Mm.
average people who are willing to go, oh, this is really uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
sound awkward. I'm stumbling over myself, this, that, and the other thing. They just got to be willing to be uncomfortable for a little
Mm.
bit, find a groove. But like you said, it takes those systems where they are empowered and supported to
Mhm.
continue to grow and become above average. Because you're not going to find unicorn. One thing that we've said is build for average. It's nice to find unicorns.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a few out there, but if
Yeah.
you're constantly striving to hire those guys, you're going to be really frustrated.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or if you have your unicorn leave, right, then
yeah,
you're like, oh my gosh, I have to replace that. But systems will is the great equalizer, really.
Mhm.
But I think there's a couple of other things that we could jam on there, which is that we're often, in what we've seen, you business owners are not setting their sales team members up for success. So very little onboarding,
Mhm.
very little in place of the systems and the accountability mechanisms and measurement of performance, um, beyond just, hey, did you get enough? Like, what's the target, right?
Mhm.
Like, just did you hit 250K this month or did you
Yeah.
not? Yeah. But like, what are all the other things that would influence that 250K? Are we really measuring that? But
Yeah.
so often there's not, to go back to that, like, are we setting them up for success? Meaning, did we onboard them properly? Did we show them what it looks like to do these things?
Mhm.
Lead by example, show them, spend time role playing, coaching, all of those different things. And very often that the answer is no, because the business owner is underwater,
Yeah.
right? They're too busy, putting out fires in the trenches. And so they get a salesperson, kind of sit down with them a couple of times over the course of 2 weeks, maybe have them shadow another underperforming sales rep.
Yeah.
And then 90 days later, you're just expecting them to be performing at a certain level. And then it's just a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome. So let's say we've got a client who has those things in place, strong competitive advantage, great marketing, and a sales guy pushing it, or two, right? So they're busier than they've ever been, but they open QuickBooks, they open their bank account, they're going, oh, we're crushing it. We should be able to buy this, that, invest in these things, but the money's gone. What do we, how do we tackle those people? Where do we have them start to help them find out where their profit is going? Because that's a really crummy feeling when you're like, we're
Yeah.
busier than ever, the crews are gone 12 hours a day, things are rolling, but there's no money. That's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah. We're on the other side of that too. Just, and that can be, because I know we're using the lingo a lot, and Wes
Mhm.
comes from that world, working with a lot of crews and a lot of guys, but you have, a diverse sales team,
Yeah.
and you are, not fab, not install, and you've got just, you have a showroom.
Yep.
Same thing, right? Busier than ever. Usually a little bit easier. So for this question specifically, usually a little bit easier, right? If you're supply only,
Mhm.
usually it's easier to be busy selling all day and keep your margins, protect your margins, and have the right amount of money left over.
Mhm.
But this conversation could still apply. But I think we see it a lot more when you're dealing with fabrication. And then for the flooring side of the industry, tile without fab, less profit leaks, but still, so not as much as when you're dealing with the countertop stone side,
Yeah.
really complex projects, a lot of fabrication, a lot of moving parts. And so I'd kind of say that's if we were to layer this, it's like from most complex, you have stone fabrication and install, then into just sort of installation or sand refinish, for example, and then down to just supply or just tile installation, and then down all the way to just a showroom. And so it's usually when we're working with our clients, the on that far side, you're going to have the most extreme case of death by a thousand paper cuts, just leaking profit, don't know where the money went. Two, on the showroom side, we'd hope you've got some solid, things in place where, you've got that 40, 50% margin that you wanted and it's showing up every day. So just, yeah, to give a little context to it, because not an easy question to answer, right? We would have to try right now to answer that question for every one of those segments
Right.
of the audience that's listening that we serve, and we serve all of those. Um, but what I would say is that very often business owners are in that situation where they're paying themselves last from what's left over in the bank account. When they look at the bank account, it's, oh, just where did it go? What happened? And that's like one of the most painful places to be, because as you said, when they're the busiest they've ever been, that usually means they're fighting the most fires. It's the most chaotic. They've got the least amount of freedom, free time,
Mhm.
and yet the money's gone. So
Yeah.
on the stone side of things, the countertop side of things, flooring side of things, that's where we work with our clients to really look at and analyze everything from production, fabrication, the way in which machinery is being utilized for throughput and optimization, labor, the workflows in those processes of what's happening, inventory management. And it's
Mhm.
really looking at all of the little things because it's very often not a big thing. And it
Right.
starts with measuring what matters. You've really got to get to know your numbers, measure what matters, be tracking things over enough of a period of time to be able to spot the trends, the bottlenecks, and the profit leaks to really get a clear picture to understand then and be able to forecast, to be able to see a few pieces on the chessboard, out to know how much money you're going to have in the bank account versus, it being a surprise. I know that's maybe not a great answer, but yeah. All right. So yeah, that was a lot to cover.
Yeah.
How many questions do we have left, Wes? I'm like
There's
running out of gas here, man.
yeah. We can slow down and land the plane here. The last thing is I have hit a ceiling. We've been stuck at the same level. I actually just had a conversation with a stone and tile owner who is like, dude, I've got more in the tank. I know that I can do more. My business can do more. But I've been for the last 4 years stuck at 1.4 million. And it's really frustrating when he feels like his capacity is higher, right? So
Mm.
been stuck at that level and can't seem to grow. How do we drive growth for those people that have been stuck and they know they've got more gas in the tank?
Damn, you came with the heat on the last question. So the layered question again, right? So if we use that exact case,
Hmm.
it's a specific
Yeah.
approach where we'd have to ask some more questions, which I'm sure you did.
Hmm.
Is at 1.4, typically those companies are, if we go back to the beginning of this episode, relying on word of mouth of referrals. Maybe they've dabbled in, some paid ads, right? They've got some Google pay per click, maybe local service ads. Hopefully they're not using things like Angie's List or Thumbtack.
Right.
At this point, if you're listening to this, if you're the exception to the rule and have had success with that, awesome. You've dodged a bullet. For everybody else, steer clear. So you're talking about like paid ad channels. Maybe they're doing something. So we've already answered that question, which in terms of like if they're relying on word of mouth and referrals, you've got to get in the driver's seat. If in his case he's at 1.4 and he's got some paid advertising going, I think what a lot of people don't recognize is how to scale what they're doing.
Mhm.
Right. So if they're running Google ads, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to, a shop or a showroom or a dealer that's been spending $3,000 for 10 years. And they're like, yeah, we are at this ceiling. And you're like, okay. And they're like, we're thinking of we're going to add meta ads. We've hired an agency.
Yep.
They're also going to start to do magazine, advertisements. We're going to get a billboard. And we're like, okay, those things might drive growth. But if you go down the rabbit hole and you ask them, they're like, yeah, we got $75, lead on Google. On Facebook, man, we get 40 leads a month. And yeah, we're spending $3,000 there as well. We
Mhm.
usually get 20 jobs from that. And we're just like, well, just want to spend more. you know,
Right.
maybe just, so the idea is to just repeat successful actions, right? Take a percentage of profits, put it back into the marketing machine and buy more customers.
Yeah.
And what I would normally recommend is if you're doing Google ads, then scale Google ads till the wheels fall off,
Mhm.
then go to a secondary channel, spin it up in meta ads, scale it to the wheels fall off because there will be a ceiling where generally it gets the campaigns actually start to like break when you try to scale beyond a certain point. Like companies that are spending 30K a month on meta ads, when you try to take it to 50, the campaigns are actually it gets harder and harder, so it's not so simple. But if you hear what we're talking about, 3,000 versus 30,000, there's a lot of room
Yeah.
that you can go. So that's number one. People generally don't realize how much they should spend, how much
Mhm.
they can spend, and how much of the market they can buy. So if you've hit that ceiling and you just haven't grown, pick one channel, scale it to the moon, And I know that sounds like, okay, yeah, great. Thanks, man. But what I've got to say to that is become a student of the game, learn,
Mhm.
master it, just like you did when you got into the game, whether that's hardwood flooring, whether that's countertops, whether that's, curating tiles so the designers want your selection. Years, right? Years to
Mhm.
master that craft. It's the same thing with marketing. You've got to stay in the pocket like a quarterback, is how we always talk to our clients. Yeah, you've got to become a student of the game. That's it. You got to stay in the pocket. Like with
Mhm.
anything else, like it's hard. You don't understand it. It's challenging. Just stay in the pocket for as long as you can, and you're going to win. So, yeah, you've hit that ceiling now. I think when you were talking about that call you had with the stone and tile company at 1.4, I think it would be good to talk about, because I think I know who you're talking about. The
Mhm.
context, he is trapped, right? And actually, we're going to get into that in the next hot seat session. But he's
Mhm.
trapped in that situation where he's the bottleneck, right, Wes?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, and so it's kind of like this chicken and egg scenario. He's too busy with the level of volume they have right now to even spend time focusing on growing his business.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a unique place that often people come to us where they're in that situation. Number one thing you've got to do first is like be able to reclaim ownership of your business, be able to figure out how to free up your time, buy back your time, have then the freedom to work on the business and protect that ruthlessly,
Yep.
because the number one thing you want to be able to focus on is your ability to produce cash,
Mhm.
whether that's to grow or whether that's to handle the times when the market takes a dip, slows down, so that you don't end up in feast or famine.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think we, if we had to rate ourselves on these hot seat sessions, how did we do, man? Scale of 1 to 10, seven's not an option. People know I use that.
Yeah, I feel good about this one. I feel like that was a 8 or 9, man.
All right, awesome. So if people are watching this or they're watching on YouTube, you can comment on the podcast.
Mhm.
Can you leave a comment on a no, right? Podcast episode? No.
Mm, no,
No,
you
you
can
can't.
leave a review though.
You can
That'd be
leave a
helpful.
review and a rating. So if you got value out of this, if you are listening to the podcast, give us an honest review and a rating. That's not out of 10, it's out of 5. But I'd love for people to rate these hot seat sessions and just let us know how we're doing. And we'll keep trying to do a better job. It's the first time. We've never done this before. We didn't prepare. So hopefully we did an okay job. And yeah, we'd love to get your feedback, guys.